Everyone wants to know, everyone, how do you treat your time and how do you manage your focus? So do you eat, dream?
I could talk about sales formulas in my sleep for 48 hours and not shut up. I have zero competition, zero. I'm like, dude, if I sell this contract right now, I'm gonna make triple what this doctor fucking makes.
How do you build trust with people? How do you disengage sales pressure?
The formula is like, people don't give a shit about you until you give a shit about them.
All right, guys, today we're gonna try to break the internet. So we're with the only one, Mr. Daniel G.
Thank you guys for
Welcome,
having
brother.
What's up, my man? How are you?
So today is a big day because Daniel is not like one of the best salesmen and sales coach in the world, is also the number one in the world. He generated to himself more than 100 million, dollars to himself, flew around the world to teach it and help not thousands, but millions of people around the world, how he did it. So today we have the honor to have you, bro.
Thank you,
we're gonna talk about sales in deep because we're in sales too. If people don't know us, basically we own one of the biggest and not just the biggest, but the best sales certification and training in Quebec. And basically we help business make more money. So today we're gonna talk about sales, talk about a lot of good stuff with you. The first two questions to hook the audience we want to ask is, what was the best year in sales? How much did you make? And what was the first year? How much did you make in sales?
My first year felt better than my best year. My best year is always my current year, okay? My first $800 that I made when I was 14 felt better than $800,000 that I made a couple weeks ago. You know, like,
Yeah, for sure.
It's you start to realize, you know, money just creates a lot of things that you can do and utilize with that money, but then long enough you just become desensitized to it. It's just another digit in the bank account, right? So for me, you know, it's just like if a girl has pretty hair and you're like, oh, your hair's pretty, it's nice and curly, and then a million guys compliment her, eventually she becomes desensitized to the compliment. Majority of people that don't have money don't believe what I just said. They're like, oh yeah, but it's easy for you to say. No, after a while, it just becomes like another harvest. So if you're not addicted to like planting the seed inside of sales, if you don't love that, you're just so addicted to the end result. When you do get that harvest, which is just like paying your bills to that first $10,000 or $20,000 a month, and that's all you wanted was just like the harvest, and you weren't, you know, happy playing the game or planting the seed, and you didn't enjoy the sport of business, like you didn't treat it like a sport. Then when you get the harvest, then I'm like, you're never gonna get to your next further harvest, because you only cared about the current one, which was just paying your bills. And thank God I got into the game early on when I was 14, and I'm like, oh, I enjoy the shit of winning. That was much more important than business and numbers. The business and numbers come, but I just wanted to win. So anybody that does well inside of sales, they enjoy the sport more than they enjoy the money.
Yeah, and I feel it's a common traits too. But like, let's say, because people want to know, you know, you're here, one of the world's greatest sales trainer. You fly all over the world to teach people salesmen. It's amazing to see you actually. I think you've done more than like 650 events or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. But people want to know, like, what would you say is your first year? How many commission have you made personally? And like when you were a sales guy, just a sales rep, what's your best year?
Last year as a sales rep, 24 and a half, I left at 620 in commissions.
620 at 24 and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, that's
between two gigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, between 2 gigs. And the first year, you did
and
door
that's
to door,
because
right?
I discovered what you guys are doing very early on.
Okay.
And I had the freedom to do it inside of my B2B business. So I was doing B2B, and then I discovered the high ticket thing, and I said, oh shit, what a great gig, 7 to 11 o'clock at nighttime, because it's B2C.
Yep.
High ticket, right? So once I clicked on that, it was like all engines running 7 days a week. On the weekends, I had freedom on my B2B job. So on Saturdays and Sundays, I was cranking out high ticket. This was before I started out the agency, right? This was like in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
So I was a personal high ticket rep while I was doing B2B.
But that's crazy because also like, you know, you say at 24, I made 600 again in a year.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But like you started at 14.
Yes.
And I think you started in door to door, right?
Yeah. At my first year at 14, I made 21.
Okay. 21.
By the way, part-time Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were 14, you were still at school?
Yeah, I was still in
imagine?
high school. And I was actually working for a direct sales company.
Yeah, exactly.
I sold before that, but I was working for a direct sales company at 14.
Okay. Okay. And how much money have you made that year?
I made 21,000.
21,000
part-time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
part-time, like Fridays to Sundays.
So 21 to 600 in 10 years.
Yeah.
And people-
Taking 6 months off.
That's crazy,
Of
man.
school because I went to university for 6 months.
Here's the question, because I think so many people want to do great in life, and you know we have a lot of people who are following us in Quebec, Montreal. Actually, you're from Toronto, man.
Yeah,
so Canadian in Miami right now, it's pretty nice. But yeah, people are looking at like, okay, what I'm gonna pursue, what I'm gonna do. Am I going in business? Might be risky. I don't know. And then they hear stories like that of like the people. You have not finished university, right?
No.
Exactly.
No.
And we didn't either.
Yeah.
So people are looking at those kinds of rapid progress, but it's 10 years, right? So it have been a long journey. But like, what would you say is the biggest difference between Daniel right now sitting in front of us and Daniel 10 years ago before he did sales? Or actually like 15 years ago now?
I wouldn't say, I made the decision to change at that age. At like 15, I made the decision to change.
Okay.
And for me, there's no dramatic shift from 15 to now. For the last 16 years, I'm 31 now.
Yeah.
So there was no dramatic shift. It was all incremental. It was like Kaizen after that, like small incremental improvements. I made the decision to change when I was young. I say it just takes people a while to make the decision to change. Like I don't think it should take so long to get income, right? Like to dramatically shift your income, it shouldn't take so long. Yeah, maybe to go to 100 to 500 million might take a while, right? But I think it's all a decision. Like I think it's a decision from somebody to go from $30,000 to $100,000 in sales, and that decision means you're probably gonna cut out something in order to study something new or take on something new. Like for me, I said something that was so small in the beginning of this podcast that maybe some people slipped by. I said I was doing B2B sales, and I was doing great. I was already a 6-figure earner in B2B sales. Now, majority of people that are a 6-figure earner in B2B sales, by the way, at the age of 20, 21, they're gonna be like, oh shit, I'm good. I'm coasting, dude. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I'm making whatever industry, insurance, real estate, high ticket, at 120 to 150, your friends are still in university, drinking, alcohol, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And at that time, I made the decision again to say, okay, this is a sign that it works. Don't chill out. Go 10 times harder because you're making the end result of what these guys are gonna make when they graduate in the next 10 years. Because the salary that we were pitched was like 150 after 5-10 years of climbing corporate America. So I said, oh shit, this is a sign. So what I did was I respected my weekends, Saturday and Sunday. I did it, and there was a lot of reps that were older than me. They were about 40 to 60 years old inside of my corporation. I was in medical device sales, B2B sales. I worked up to the Gatineau area. Like I was all the way west of Canada, down east. So I managed every single long-term care home and hospital in all of Eastern Ontario. A very high ticket item, couple $1 million plus some of the contracts. A lot of my sales reps were coasting on the weekend. And I said, let me like maximize weekend, but I couldn't really do it in my B2B job because the decision makers were off on the weekends. So at that point, I was kind of like just twirling thumbs, doing account management. I'm like, man, what do I do on the weekends? Because this shit works, but I can only execute. And that's where I'm like, I found a little gap in the marketplace where I called up one of these influencers. I'm like, yo, bro, do you have an email list? He said, yeah. I said, do you get numbers from the email list? Remember, opt-ins with name, email, and phone number was not a thing. I said, bro, why don't you just add the phone number tab? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, just add their phone number. He said, and then what? I said, I'll call all your leads. Just add a phone number to this. How many people do you have in your email list? 160,000. I said, holy shit, dude, you have 160,000 people on your email list and you don't have a phone number tab. Like you don't find opportunity, you create one. So I said, put a phone number tab on your funnel, put a phone number tab. And on the weekends, I just started dialing. And that's how I designed the whole high ticket, opt-in, cold call to warm call, et cetera. It didn't exist. I was a closer. I was a setter. I was a closer. I was doing the triage process with myself. Yep. I was 2 names on 1 phone call. Hey, it's Bob. Jim, my director, wanted to speak with you tomorrow. I just want to better understand who you are, filter out the lead, and then go, boom, book a meeting. And I was doing that as a 6-figure earner. Most 6-figure earners would be at the strip club, popping bottles or whatever the case was.
Yeah, especially early 20s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And we noticed 2 things because obviously we trained and we had a big sales team in the past, and seeing people getting to that 100K, even sometimes 200K mark. And like they usually get either caught into wanting to start their own business or the shiny object syndrome. That business looks better. Oh, having a bad month, it's because of the leads are shitty, marketing is shitty. I need to switch opportunities. How do you deal with that?
I think it's creating a culture and a standard, right? Like I think some people don't understand when they don't understand what it takes to run a business. Everybody's gonna want to run it until they realize what it takes to run the business. So I think being very open with the top people around you and say like, hey guys, we're better at collaborating here than we are against competing against one another in this industry, because look at the profit share that I take home. And this only works. I only make the most if it's a well-oiled engine machine. So how do I have you guys manage and build your own business underneath our business sort of thing? Because most people, they all try to fake being the A player, and they'll make so much more being the B player. And I've said this so many times and people don't trust me. I said, man, I met so many people probably like you guys that try to drift off and try to go open up their own gig or agency. And I said, wow, my number one rep in my agency at the time was making more than all the fake people that try to open up their agency.
Yep.
You just stated. And as well, the more they stay in it the longest, the more I'm going to be biased towards that person. That means they're going to collect the most money, because yes, they are going to get the best leads because they stayed in it the longest, because they worked the hardest, because they closed the most. I'm going to give them everything, right? And they're going to have an easier life. They will have something called freedom, which a lot of salespeople want at the end of the day, unless they want ego, right? But a lot of salespeople get into this because they want freedom, right? They want to buy back their time. And that's what sales does. That's the ultimate goal.
Yep.
So then I ask people, I say, hey, do you want freedom? Or is this something that you really wanted to do inside of the beginning? Or just because you watch somebody, you think it's going to be easy? Just now you're trying to steal an idea. So you have to understand, when you're leaving somewhere, was this an idea that you always had? You know what I mean? Or was this something where you're like, I'm just super good at this, I can make a lot of money, stay as a B player, But if this is an idea maybe you had from since you were young, or whatever the case was, okay, maybe then there's a conversation, because it's you're fueling a passion project.
Yeah, I feel like ego get a couple of months in or a couple of years in. If you're someone who would like to compete, at a certain point you want to be the first one. And also one of the big issue is like at the beginning, I feel like sales is really challenging, but then you arrive to that part of your journey where you always do the same thing. Your objection handling, the question to ask, the prospect, the patterns, and then it can get a bit bored, or it's getting really repetitive. And like some of those people, they've been in sales for like 2 years, making a lot of money, and then they're like, yeah, but I'm bored, I'm tired of that. I should pursue something else. So have you seen people having that kind of issue? Or like,
yeah, it's vehicle. It's the vehicle that you choose.
Yeah.
So meaning like, if you're going to work in a job and you're like an eagle and you want to constantly attack, meaning like you just don't want to sit down and wait, you got to go work for a business owner that says, hey, on the weekends where there's nothing coming in, go out and attack, do what you want, build your brand, go out there and prospect leads if you want to prospect leads, whatever the case is. So you have to figure out your personality type. If your personality type is, hey, I'm good with what I got, I don't want to go out there and eat what I kill, etc., then that's one vehicle. But you got to be smart and say, okay, what's the vehicle that I'm picking right now, right? If somebody comes to work for me, they have the ability, to get leads or come work for you, but they can also go out there, hunt a client, grab other clients, etc., whatever the case is, especially if it's for sales education, right? So, and I could see that very early on. Like we hired one guy a couple months ago. He was done the interview. He signed on the spot our papers to come work for us. He's in the elevator. I get a call. I'm on a plane literally in 4 hours. We did an interview. I jump on a plane. I get a call from one of our guys. I think it was Jamil or maybe Moose. And he's like, yo, bro, that guy that just signed with us cranked the deal. I'm like, oh, nice. You got him set up in the CRM and everything right away. He said, no, he found a lead in the elevator. The guy just so happened to follow you in sales or something like that. And he connected you guys. And then we just closed out the lead. I said, that's a salesperson.
Oh. Yeah,
that guy can just see opportunity instead of see excuses,
We used to do that in commercial centers when we were young. Like we started into like renovation space, like heating, cleaning system, windows, roofing, stuff like that. And I remember we sometimes go to people in commercial centers to get their information and see if they were homeowners and maybe they'd have a need or something. So it reminds me of that. It's pretty
We're
funny.
practicing to just before knocking doors, just go see some girls, go see some prospect in the commercial, just to get the balls running. So no, that's great things. And in sales we see all the time, like we have a bunch of people who just start, they go through the boredom, they do the repetition, 3 years in, they make a bunch of money. They just make a bunch of money. They have no school, no education, and they just receive a lot of capital in their bank account. How do you see that how do you deal with that with your teams, that all these kind of people making money but don't know how to deal with it, don't know how to deal with this capital?
I think wealth management's important. The problem with a salesperson is the better you get, you know you can make it back the next month. So like, if I know I'm getting good, that's the biggest killer because that's my kryptonite is my skills going up because now I know I can spend it and I can make it back the next month.
Yeah.
Right? That's the killer of every sales rep. The moment the skills go up, you know you can make it and then you stay on that hamster wheel, right? So you're like, okay, I made 50,000. I can go blow it because I know I'll make another 50,000 next month. And usually I show the reps of that hamster wheel cycle creates like a lot of anxiety because if you know what you can make and you made it, and then you know you made it in the past, and then you still see zero in your bank account, that's when you'll eventually end up quitting. Because that's when it's okay when you're broke and you've spent all your $50 in your bank account. That's fine. But when you know you made $500,000 and you're still sitting with zero, that creates doubt, worry, fear, and anxiety, and you end up quitting, right? So to me, early on, it's important to know placement of money. So I teach people early on in sales saying, hey, by the way, you got to practice becoming a millionaire and knowing where your money's going to be before you even get it. Because if you don't, when you get it, you're going to be shocked or you're going to be excited. And if you get shocked, like, oh my God, I didn't know this was happening, or you get excited, you'll end up spending it. One or the other. You'll get shocked so you won't repeat it again. So you will feel like you're not in deservance of it. And that feeling like you're not in deservance of it, you will not go work the next month because you'll be like, no, I don't deserve this money. Or you'll get excited, and if you get excited, you'll go spend it because you haven't practiced being like, okay, I know I can do this. After your first sale, you haven't said, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire. What's my accountant's name's going to be? Where am I going to put this money? I'm going to put it into a 401k. I'm going to put it into Bitcoin. I'm going to put it into investment somewhere where I can just stay broke and still operate, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I always say millionaires practice being millionaires in their head before they get it inside of the person in real life. Like you literally practice it a million times. Like say for events, whatever you want in particular, I have big events and I have large events. I've practiced having full rooms of events. Like I've literally stared at empty stadiums and walked up and down the stadium visualizing me having a full event. So when it came time to having a full event, you know, like it didn't feel like, oh my God, this is crazy. I just operated like it was another training. I trained empty stadiums before I trained a full fucking stadium. You know what I mean? Like people don't understand. Like I've trained a full stadium that was empty with 3,000 seats. Mississauga Living Arts Center. It's called the Mississauga where I'm from. I trained a whole 8-hour seminar in that stadium one day. The seats were fucking empty, bro.
Alone.
Yeah, like literally alone. It was not even my friend. Sometimes I tell a story on stage where I'm like, I was doing this event and there was no people sitting down. This one, I was actually alone doing an 8-hour fucking seminar alone, bro. And I was talking to people and I was training people and I was like 24, 25 at the time.
Yep.
Didn't have one fucking event and I was just going up to everybody. And then when people say, oh man, you must be a good speaker or it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, you rehearse it. You rehearse being a millionaire. You rehearse fucking practice stages. It happens here before it happens in physical.
Because for precise thing like this, like being on stage, you can practice, you can visualize.
Yeah.
But when you say become a millionaire before you have $1 million in your bank, how do you do that?
How do you do that? Yeah. So imagine the million's already in your bank account.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna be like, oh, I thought of it. You didn't think of it yet. Like visualize $1 million in your bank account. Okay, great. What's the first thought that comes to your head? I know the first thought that comes to everybody's head. Dude, this is the boat I'm gonna go buy. This is the Lamborghini I'm gonna go buy. And this is the house I'm gonna go buy. That's probably gonna be the first conscious thought that comes to a sales rep's head, especially if they're young. All right, so now you're undisciplined inside of your mind. We gotta practice this shit out. Because if that's the first thought, if you make the million and you go do that, you're gonna be back on the hamster wheel. You're gonna be the person that won the lottery. So now let's replay it out. When you make $1 million, what are you gonna do? And then I start thinking of it. I'm like, okay, first I'm gonna have an accountant. Okay, what's your accountant's name? Go call up your accountant. Practice how it is. Go call up your accountant. Okay, cool. How much is when I have $1 million, how much should go into my savings account? Okay, what else should go into my investments? Where am I gonna go invest in? What's the area that I'm gonna go invest in? Where am I gonna go live in? Drive to the area? I envision all this shit. And somebody's like, oh, that's very unpractical. And that's why most people get excited when they get it. They get too excited. Or it's like, oh, it shouldn't have happened. I don't get excited, dude. This morning when I'm going on a run, I live at the Venetian Causeway down in Miami, a building. My run is a specific run. I moved there for a specific purpose. The purpose of living there is that all the islands are there. Star Island, all the islands are on that. So when I jog to the beach from my apartment, I swerve in between all the islands and I say hi to all the neighbors. I'm a millionaire already, bro. I was a millionaire by 25. I go to neighbors, I touch the grass, I feel the grass. I'm like, I'll be here probably in August. Those homes start at 25 million, right? And if I still have the right to do it, if I could still do it, I say, why don't other people practice it? Maybe it's people don't understand that the number one thing that drives a business in the beginning is emotions. It's an emotion. It's just like, fuck, we need to be the best. We need to make $1 million. And then as you start making money, what starts to happen is that it becomes logical, strategy, funnels, numbers, right? It starts to become like let's say your first 100,000 was completely emotional, hunger, drive, and passion. That's emotions. That's not strategy.
Reps.
That's like I'll fucking eat anything that comes in front of me. That's emotions. Even to your first million, you could do it hustling to your first million. And then I say, if it was emotions that drove you to your first million, how isn't emotions part of your business plan to the next 10 million? It's the thing that drove you to the beginning. It should be. There should be some sort of like hunger, desire, dreaming, will, something about. That's the emotional component about sales.
But that's crazy about what you just said, because in our academy we already like are so much into psychology, like understanding your mind, understanding how people make decisions, understanding the emotional, logical side of it, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to help people make decisions, you have to be able to influence yourself to make decisions and influence yourself in your behaviors. And I think it's really, really similar, and people don't get that until they coach or until they train other people, I feel like. But there's an emotional part of you that needs to be triggered for you to take action. But that's the same emotional part I want to trigger at someone else when I'm trying to close them.
Correct.
Or like when I'm trying to sell. And so I feel like understanding the inner game, understanding biology, psychology is such an important subject, And so my question for you is, when you train people, when you coach people, when you help people succeeding in sales, do you focus more on making them understand their inner game or just giving them energy, giving them confidence? Like, do you focus?
It's like a combination, it's internal, external, and then coupling it, meaning, EI, emotional intelligence, is basically understanding yourself first, then understanding how somebody makes a decision second, and then coupling other people to make decisions together. That's the strongest form. So that, like, the third one is either when you got a few decision makers and you know how to bridge everybody together, or you're a leader and you know how to bridge everybody together. So understand me first, understand somebody second, understand how to couple people third, right? My whole sales process is understanding how I buy. If I understand how I buy, I could teach somebody else how somebody else buys. Most people try to understand sales and they got in reverse. So I'll say it for the audience right now. If you try to study sales, you will always lose. If you try to study how somebody buys, you will always win. I know how people make decisions. I can close anything blindfolded because I understand how people make a buying decision. I understand the states of a buyer, what state the buyer's in right now. Okay, they're defensive, they're hyping me up, or they're ready. So if I understand that dance, I just tailor towards my sales process towards that dance. But when I don't know that, I know it deep down to the core, and you guys probably have that too as well, because you guys are trainers, where it's like you could smell almost, okay, that person's a buyer or they're not. And my guys will be like, what do you mean? I hang up the phone, they're not buying. What do you mean? Hang up the phone, they're not buying. You screwed up the process. You didn't play the dance with them. You didn't know that they were over embellishing you and they were hyping you up, maybe just to get the contract, the paperwork, and the numbers, and they weren't a ready buyer yet. Like, you didn't know that dance.
Yeah,
and
that takes some time though.
Sales is a dance, bro. So and the only way to lead that dance is understanding how people buy. It's not understanding what personality type they are. We don't need to create sales reps into biologists, but we do need to get them to a point where they understand if this person's defensive, number one, and resistant. Number two, if they're hyping you, when they're like, yeah, I'm ready to get started, to send over the paperwork. Or number three, when they're ready. Like, those are the only three states of a buyer. No, I don't want to buy shit today, shoulders up. Number two, yeah, I'm ready to get started. Maybe they just want to see the price. Or number three is, yeah, I'm ready to buy, right? So I want to know, okay, what state is that customer in? Because if they're ready to buy, and I keep talking, we overshoot the sale. If they're over embellished, they're hyping you up, then you're going to think you got in the bag, but you still got to stay in your process. Or if they're defensive, you got to break the defense some way, somehow, right? So that's more important. And that happens throughout the whole sales process. Prospecting, closing,
but that's emotional
follow-up.
Intelligence, though.
Correct.
Being able to size the person in front of you.
Yeah. Like, is the person defensive? Where are they at right now? Do I got to spend a little bit more time with them?
Yeah.
So I understand how people buy before I sell. And I think that's important. When you can master that, sales becomes easy. The top sales reps that I studied in the top of their fields, they weren't the best with words. That's what people think. Oh, they're the best with the script. It's important. I can blindfold a script in 2 seconds. They were good at understanding how people buy. And they don't know how to train it, by the way. They're just really good at what they do.
Yep.
But they understood what state the buyer was in. And I just had to, as a good trainer, you reverse engineer that X factor of a good sales rep and be like, she or he understands people and buyers. They don't try to understand sales. shitty sales reps try to understand sales and just the okay, what's the word? It's not the word. You don't get it yet. You can't apply the word without the person. And first, just like you said, first people got to say yes to you before they say yes to the business.
Yep.
And then you got to understand them, and then you understand sales. So really the formula is understand how like you operate, make them say yes to you, then understand how they operate, and then close sales.
Yeah, makes sense, man.
And like it's kind of social intelligence, right? So except repetition, how do you train that?
Repetition?
Yeah, except if do just reps and just have this kind of pattern recognition of okay, these people, these guys is in this kind of states. How do you train that?
To understand people's states by words and language. So whatever goes through their mouth is a reflection of what's going on inside of the prospect's mind, right? So if let's say for example, so you said reps. If I say, how do you identify somebody's state, right? If you get on a phone call with somebody and somebody says, no, thank you, I'm not interested, right? Okay, state, defensive, of course, 150%. Why? Nobody that has a lot of rapport with you or that is your friend is ever going to get on a phone call and say, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Or if you get on a beginning of a phone call and somebody says, hey, listen, I'm not ready to buy right now. I just want to know like the facts and figures. I just don't want to buy. See, a sales rep might get turned off by that. Could be like, fuck, man, I'm on a bad call. But dude, they're just in a defensive state. They have something called, they're telling you past trauma. It's like if a lady gets on a date with you and she says, or a guy gets on a date with a lady and they're like, yeah, I'm just not ready to, settle down right now, but they're on a date. What they're telling you is like, man, I have so much trauma from the past. I'm on a date. I want to go out, but I just have so much trauma blocking me that I'm literally going to tell you. So what comes out of their mouth is a reflection of what's happening inside of their mind. Keep going. If somebody's an over-embellished buyer, like somebody's trying to hype you up, they'll say things like, okay, I'm ready to get started. How much is the cost? But they haven't seen the value. They haven't seen a comparison. They haven't seen the anchor between what they're doing now, what you have to offer. And they don't ask you any questions that is product related, shift related, or change related to a product. And they're just like, I want to see the price. That might be an over-embellished buyer. Yeah, we're ready to get started. Based on what? Did you see a video? Did we talk? Did we have a conversation? That person's over-embellished, hyped buyer, they just want to see the price. They want to see like the silver or golden bullet, and salespeople fall for it. So they're like, okay, well, let me show it to you right away. It's a dance. And I train people, like when people watch my training, when I train on that type of buyer, let's say if somebody's like, I'm ready to get started. I want to talk to salespeople because we got a lot of salespeople watching this. The highest form of control is just to make people feel like they're in control.
Je prends 30 secondes pour toutes les personnes qui aimeraient avoir le privilège de voir Daniel G en personne. Le 30-31 mai 2025, on organise un événement privé ici à Montréal, un mastermind accompagné de Daniel G, accompagné des centaines et des centaines de vendeurs, de closers, les meilleurs au Québec, des entreprises qui veulent engager. Bref, ça va être un événement inoubliable à ne pas manquer. Il reste quelques places, on a déjà plusieurs centaines de places qui sont parties. Il reste quelques places ici dans la description. Va réserver ta place maintenant. Let's go, back to the video. Ciao.
So it's not like you're like, well, I can't show you that right now because we haven't done XYZ, or, okay, let me show you that right away. Now you lost the process. The easiest way is just play the dance. Be like, you know what? Finally, man, like I needed to get on a phone call with somebody that needed to see the price right away because I don't have to speak to you for 3 hours. Now buyer's like, I get what I want. So I'm going to make you feel like you're in control for 2.5 seconds because I know your state is like, I just need the price. Be like, shit, let me get that out to you. Let me just draft you up a contract and get that out to you in like 2 seconds. Before I get that out to you, let me ask you one quick question. One quick question, can turn into 20. But I'm not going against the frequency of the conversation because I know energetically the person's like, I want to stay in control, which by the way, we were taught was a driver buyer. A driver buyer was the one that wants to drive the sale, right? That was like the buyer that we studied early on. I studied sales training since I was 14. Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar. I was a maniac with sales. And there's so many different types of buyers. I categorized them into 3. So I said, this person just wants to feel like they're in control. Give it to them. The easiest way to win an argument is you don't argue at all. Man, I just need the price. Finally, man, I don't fucking have to present to you for like 3 hours, bro. Sometimes I have to show people as to why e-commerce, Forex, love relationship coaching, whatever sales coaching is beneficial to them. Now I can just get on a phone call and get it out to you in like 2 seconds. Let me get you out the right price. Just so I know I'm getting you out the right price, let me ask you one quick question. And then that one quick question, can turn into 20 because I'm just playing the dance. I don't want to get off the frequency. I believe like there's a energy line inside of sales and I'm trying to stay on that energy line the whole time, And by the way, I also close easy. Like a lot of people watch us and we might be like very strict, very intense, but the sales conversation is easy. I don't know if you guys ever heard me say, I say you think like a lion, but you sell like a lamb. So like you think like you always want to hunt, but the moment somebody comes on a conversation, you're like 10 levels, like, you know, just chilled out.
So you're not the same on a stage in
No
a
way.
sales conversation.
No way. I'm on stage. I'm a lion. Like we're on lion mode right now. We're on training. The camera's on. The moment Steve puts on a camera in front of my face, I'm just boom. I'm in lion mode. Why? Because I know that's what people need to hook your attention.
Yep.
That's my mode that I'm in. And then some people try to sell. They watch these sales trainers online and they're like, oh, I'm going to do it like that. I'm like, dude, you know he's in lion mode right now, or she's in lion mode. Like, that's not how you're going to apply it inside of sales. That shit doesn't work inside of sales. Even the way I train it sometimes on stage, I say, guys, I'm in lion mode right now. I got energy. There's 2,000 people watching me. No shit, I have to have energy. I'm not going to get on stage and be like, guys, sales is good. You know? So I say, take what I say on how I do it, not with how I'm delivering it right now, because you might fuck it up inside of the sales process.
Too aggressive.
Yeah.
So
Just
you
the
need
right
to lower
people.
yourself when you get into a conversation. Do you consider yourself more of like someone who like to talk and to speak to people and have to lower yourself, or you have to hype up yourself when you go on stage? And
No, I don't have to convince myself to hype up myself. I feel like it's second nature at this point. Yep. What I do is I just reserve my battery very well. Like I don't do a lot of things that are very unintentional inside of life. Maybe you guys are the same. Like I don't take like unintentional meetings. I don't go out to network with people. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't talk to people. I don't go out for dinners. I don't do any of that, you know? And some people will say, well, how? I said, well, when you got a battery where you got to deliver at 150%, I can't just like withdraw it to everybody. So I'm very reserved behind the scenes because I want to pour on like 150%. And some people think that's like rude to be like introverted behind the scenes. And I try to even tell my guys, I'm like, I don't want to do things with nobody. I said, what's rude is giving people fucking 70% of your time. Yeah. That's rude. Like I don't give bro, when I'm with somebody, I don't give nobody 80%. Like I give somebody 150, even though there's a million things going on. And if I'm inside of the DM, like a lady messaged me like last week, I get over 2,000 to 3,000 DMs a day. Like somebody's in there all day working in DMs. I messaged one lady, I'm like, not going to answer this. Jump on my live stream at 6 p.m. I'll answer it on my live. I just happened to see the DM. Going through my requests, we were promoting something, I'm going through the request. She asked me this long paragraph question. I'm like, I'm not reading this. Ask me it tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, right? And she's like, oh, wow, you became too cool or something like that. And I said, first of all, that's the exact reason why I didn't answer it, because they didn't want the actual answer. They just wanted my attention. They didn't even want the answer, because if they wanted the answer, they would have been like, I'll jump miles. I'll find the guy's email. I'll message him. I'll get on a phone call. I'll get on his live stream. Most people don't want the answer. They want your energy. Especially the bigger you get, most people don't want the strategy. They just want to fucking withdraw from you. Yep. So I told her, I said, then I went on my stories that day. I said, guys, I will never meet you at 50%. You want to meet me at 150 fucking percent? Show up to an event, show up to a training call, show up to one of my live streams. I don't meet people at 70%. Like I don't do the half-ass shit. What am I going to text you a paragraph? Especially me being such a communicative person. I'm not going to text you back. So then everybody in my life realizes that, bro. It's a standard. My family even realizes that. Like I don't do the whole texting during the day. Like, my family realizes if I'm going to get this guy's attention, he's either going to drive into or fly into Toronto and spend a weekend with us completely undivided, or be on a phone call for like 3 hours, but not the texting thing. How you doing? I think that's the stupidest thing. If anybody in my life has ever messaged me, what's up, bro? Or how you doing? I'll say, please never message me again in your life. That shit is that's the stupidest fucking shit in the world. Like, yo, how you doing? What do you get to it? Like, you want to go out tonight?
Absolutely.
Like, bro, do you have something? Like, if somebody texts me that, I already can see where they're at. They don't respect their time. And most people, what's crazy, this is good. Again, a lot of salespeople watching this. I was just talking about for the last 10 minutes about time. Like, I respect my time so much, like you guys. Like, we respect it. Dude, we have hours in our agenda. We respect the hours, blah, blah. And I say this to people. I say, okay, I just made a video 5 seconds ago on my Instagram. It's like sales equals commissions, which equals freedom, right? That's what we know. We know commissions can equal freedom in the end. And I said, but this thing called freedom means you could do whatever the fuck you want, when you want, with who you want, however you want. That's freedom, right? And I said, if that's freedom, that means you got time and you got money. And I said, so if freedom equals time, I said, imagine you had to respect time like it was a person. How do you respect the time right now? Because if you're like, I want freedom in the future, I'm like, you don't even respect fucking time right now. They say treat others as you would like to be treated. I said, treat time the way you would like to be treated inside of the future. So if you treat time like shit today, you're not gonna have freedom tomorrow. And I see so many young people that are like, oh, freedom lifestyle. Dude, you fucking disrespect time right now. You're on the weekends, like you disrespect time, and then you're asking for time in the future. Isn't that interesting? Like time equals freedom, but most people disrespect their time right now. They go to clubs, they don't care. They ask their friends, do you want to chill? Chill? The fuck's chilling? Like my friend asked me when I was in Toronto, do you want to chill? I said, and the same guy posts freedom quotes on his Instagram. I said, dude, do you know freedom equals time and you're disrespecting time right now, you're never gonna get it. It means that whatever you want inside of the future, you got to respect it today. Most people say they want sales freedom or time freedom. I think it's bullshit because they don't really burst a minute. They don't have urgency in that 1 minute. And I teach people how to like look at a minute and burst it. Like have so much urgency in that 1 minute. Like treat time so nice. Love and respect time. When you're with a prospect, like, you know, show them that you care about your time. Hey, by the way, I know you canceled the meeting at 7 p.m. I want to fill somebody out. That's why I always do that follow-up line because I'm like, show the prospect that you're going to do everything you can, that if you cancel on me, I'm going to fill up that spot because I respect my time. People respect people, you know, that respect their own agendas and time. That's the most respected thing.
Talking about time, yesterday we had a big sales coaching with all our team. And we say that we're going to talk to the best salesman in the world. So everyone wants to know, how do you treat your time and how do you manage your focus? So do you eat, dream, everything of sales, or sometimes you just cool off 1 day a week and, you know, how do you manage that?
Everything in my life's priority based. So it's not like sequential because most people when they teach time management, they're like, okay, at 8 a.m. I got to eat this. And then at 10 a.m. I got to do that. And I'm in a little effed up business, which majority of people are. And I don't think I'm categorized being unique. I think a lot of people have effed up days. Like if you're in sales, you might have an effed up day. If you're a business owner, you might have an effed up day. For me, I'm saying that because I live on like a plane, you know? So it's like, it's not that at 8 a.m. I can go for a run. So what I've done is I've managed my life in priorities, meaning, okay, if just like you guys are big on fitness, people that are big on fitness don't necessarily have a time. They just have to get it fucking done. That's it. Like the other person's like, they have to be at the gym at 5 a.m. Yes, maybe some people operate like that, depending on what your freedom looks like currently today in your business. But that will give you anxiety if you have to strict by a 5 a.m. schedule. If you have to, no. A winner just says, no, I just got to get it done. Like I will not put my head to the pillow, and having that priority usually is what differentiates people. Cause like that right there, just like regardless of how the day looks, I run by priorities. I don't run by a schedule. Cause my schedule can be crazy this morning where I got like a 9 at 9:15 at 9:30 at 9:45. But if it's a priority that I got to go for a run, I'll go for a run at 12:30 at night, or I'll go for a workout at 12:30 at night, right? I think very smart people just don't listen to a podcast and a YouTube channel saying all millionaires wake up at 6 a.m. We know that. No, millionaires have priorities. Like they have a priority to win. They have a priority to call their leads. They just have priorities inside of life. So I know my A, B, and C priorities. That's the way I do it. I prioritize over going through like by my seconds on my calendar because I know that shit's never going to work out as being a business owner. It's not. And then if I don't go, because then after what you do is when somebody comes with you with something, automatically your brain is like, is that A, B, or C, or D? You start learning how to prioritize because then you're like, okay, is that A, B, or C, or D? And then what looks like the criteria when you prioritize? See, many people, by the way, they don't have core values, so they don't know how to prioritize. Like that is so important, dude. They don't have core values inside of their business, so they can't prioritize, so they don't know time management. Core values means like I will prioritize based off my core values. So what does that mean? I'm going to prioritize. First, of course, health is important, right? That's number one. But core values inside a business is how I can do time management. So if somebody comes with me for something and they say, Daniel, I have this on the plate for you to do. One of my core values is like lifetime value, right? LTV. So the first thing, I had to write down my core values inside of my business. And if you guys don't have core values, anybody watching, write it down because that's how you prioritize based on what you want inside of life. The first thing inside of business is lifetime value and relationship with customer. So if I see something and I smell something, I'm like, is this a one-off? Okay, let's put this on like C. Is this something that could be long? Can this turn into like 20 events? Put this on A. You know, what has the person done in the past? Who are they connected with? I could see where I'm going to put it because if I'm not going lifetime value, I'm still being a transactional operator inside a business. Meaning if I'm not looking the length of how long this can last, then I'm just being transactional for money. So there's no lifetime value inside of it. I don't think the collaboration makes sense, the payment makes sense, the event makes sense, nothing. Because I don't see the LTV in it, and then it's gonna be transactional. And I'm just going back to a guy that doesn't understand money. You know, money and freedom is something that can be built forever. Like I'm all about where does this seed land in the next like 20 years, 15 years. You know what I mean? So same thing with you guys. Like I'm like, okay, this is what they do. They're in the same industry, they're in the same field. Roughly, we attack, and then you guys were in Quebec, and I'm like, okay, eventually I don't even got to tell you guys this, but eventually you guys will be in the States and you guys will be doing stuff in the States. So I need people, like, contrary to popular belief inside of our industry, I need people that are just like us. So yes, like I need people that are like us down here. And by the way, this whole market is open. There's nobody like, you know, when people look at sales, I have zero competition, zero. And I really, really mean that. Like I'll wake up this morning, I had to say no to like 6 deals in the morning of just speaking. There's zero competition because there's 0 people left that wanted to go big, right? And meaning like want to dominate the whole world in sales. People say, oh, I'm big in America. Yeah, the world is big, dude. It's 7 billion people. Like people, 8 billion people. People think like owning the market I thought that too. Like when I was in Toronto, I'm like, I'm just like you guys, like fucking in Quebec. And I'm like, oh shit, there's so much more than Toronto, Canada. You know, I said the clicker for me was when somebody came in my office and they said, hey bro, this person talks shit about you in the city. I said, oh, nice. And then the same day, the same sales rep came in the office. Yo, one of my friends, he's your fan. He wants to come meet you. And I said, this is a problem. I said, I'm the talk of the town. And that's when you got to leave the town, when you want to be talk of the town. That to me was like the biggest eye opener that day. I had an aha moment. I said, only the stupid person wants to be talk of the town. I don't want to be talk of the town. Like only the dumb person wants to have the nicest car and the nicest home and be like, oh, look at all my neighbors who see me. I'm like, dude, a reel can get 1 million views. What are we doing here in this neighborhood? That's when I said, let's play bigger. So I tried to learn how to attack different markets, South America, Europe, India, South Asia. I'm everywhere. I say yes to everything and plant those seeds. Yes, it might take a while because it's interesting markets to penetrate, South Asia, Europe, South America. But that was my goal. Yeah, of course, you build locally and you think globally. That's the way.
So you have to learn to speak Spanish now.
No,
right?
dude, just translators.
Yeah. Oh, okay. AI. Right?
Yeah. And eventually, I have a translator beside me everywhere I go. So every stage, I talk, they talk.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, within the next 6 months, we'll be able to talk on stage, and I think it'll just come out of the speakers.
Would be crazy. Huh?
Yeah, I think the text there.
We could already do so many things that are incredible with AI. It's not really.
Talking about that,
Yeah.
do you want to ask the question about AI?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so talking about AI, right? It's taking over the world couple of years that we see. How do you see the world's changing, specifically in sales? Okay, how do you see the world's changing with AI?
I think it changes systems and processes for salespeople right now. I don't think it changes anything communicative for salespeople right now, meaning like the way I talk to a customer on a conversation. I still think people buy from people. I still think we're in a generation where people buy from people. However, at the same time, it could speed up the efficiencies of a sales process, meaning that's for prospecting, for follow-up, for management, for all processes necessary. When I said follow-up, like that is so important because in follow-up, okay, people have to understand what report means. So I'll give them a breakdown. Report is not a finding points of commonality, meaning like, oh, you have a dog, I have a dog. Now we're in report. That's what the average sales rep thinks report is. Just find points of commonality. Oh, you like golf, I like golf. You like working out, I like working out. That's very surface level report. Yep. High level report is a process of engagement, which essentially means that I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk on a sales conversation. That's good report. Like you could see when a sales rep's out of report when it's like 70% the sales rep, 30% the prospect. Now you're out of rapport. It's like if a guy's messaging a girl and he's like messaging her like 40 paragraphs and she's like, no way. And then he messages again. That's out of rapport. You know he's not landing the date or she's not interested. So that's what rapport looks like, meaning like rapport is a process of engagement. So my question always becomes, as a great sales rep, you will have better process of engagement if you know how to communicate effectively than a robot will right now, an AI. Right now, you have better process of engagement to find the emotional triggers. Because we just said sales is internally, then externally emotional, and then tie it off and wrap it off with logic. We're still at the point right now where rapport is more important than ever inside of sales. Like that communication between one another is so important. And how do you learn that? Well, you do it outside of business. You don't do it inside of business. Like when you sit down on a plane, like how good are you at rapport with one another? How can you have ebb and flow in conversation, like a perfect heartbeat where they talk, you talk, they talk, you talk, so it bounces back inside of your conversations? I think prior and post sales conversations, AI is going to dominate in the next decade. Prior and post, meaning prior leading up to the prospecting, lead gen, et cetera, and post. The salesperson just has to be so good at finding emotional triggers, wants, and need from a buyer right now. Because then a buyer will just tell AI, yeah, I just want the price. AI is going to spit it out to them right away without AI being like, let me understand the buyer first. Oh, maybe they're in an over-embellished, scenario. Now, it takes somebody that understands sales very well to go train an AI model in the next decade to start training an AI on how to understand personality types through different word tracks. Yeah. Now, when AI starts understanding that, just like we said, the word tracks, that's where people are going to have to start communicating to AI. And then AI is going to be doing the conversation. I don't see that for the next 5 to 10 years.
They're going to need us to train the AI.
Of course. That's 100%. I'm training my AI right now like crazy.
But also with the trust part, when people know they're talking to robots or to AI, they just lose trust.
Right.
So, and I want to get a bit more specific on it because I think a lot of people can sell really well, transfer energy, transfer conviction. But usually one of the biggest issue, as we see in closing deals in the high ticket space, especially in the remote, is lack of trust. It's always for good reps, it's always the issue at the end of the day. Too much sales pressure into objection, lack of trust. Yeah. How do you have a formula or how do you build trust with people? How do you disengage sales pressure?
Yeah, so this is good. There's no formula for trust. The formula is this, actually generally give a shit. But how do we train that is the question, because the formula is people don't give a shit about you until you give a shit about them, right? That's the formula inside of business. So I'm on a call last week with my sales school students, and I said, all right, guys, here's the sales process. Let's go through it. Talk to somebody, hey, by the way, I just want to better understand who you are, what you do for a living. If I can support you, I'll point you in the right direction. If not, I'll end the call shortly. So towards the end of the conversation, you can better understand, if you want to work with us or not when you are ready to transition. Sounds fair enough? Nice. Okay, man, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Now you get into situational based questions. You start asking them about their situation, right? So you're at their current situation, traditional sales process. Then it's okay, and this is all right. After you find their current situation, see what they want a little bit, right? And then ask them, hey, by the way, why haven't you got that already, right? So you're trying to figure out the problem, and then you tie in your solution.
Yep.
And then I said, okay, when you're talking to a client and you said you want to build trust, there has to be something that goes through the client's mind where they're like, this person gives a shit, right? There has to be something there. So when you're like, how much do you make? Let's just go through that process, right? When you're like, okay, Bob, so by the way, on average right now, what are you currently bringing inside of your business? Is it 1,000, 5,000 a month? What do you currently bring in on average monthly inside of your business? If you look at your last 6 months, yeah, I'm about 5,000 a month. Okay, cool. And watch a sales process, how they're going to move. Okay, and what would you like to be making every single month? Or how are you making that current income right now? They'll ask 2 questions, what are you doing to make that income? Or what would you like to be making? I said, if somebody's making $5,000 a month, you want to build trust? Stop, pause, go deep. Okay, bro, by the way, you said you're making $5,000 a month? Yeah. Okay, I had a couple other, things to ask you based on income, but I have a question. How long have you been making $5,000 a month? It's been for the last 3 years. Okay, stop. Why? What do you mean? Why did you decide to make $5,000 a month for the last 3 years? Because it might not be a solution problem. And the guy's like, in his head, we might not have this solution for you because you've been stuck at the same income for 3 years. Meaning if I taught you how to sell a fucking plant in our program, you would still make a little bit more income. So internally, what do you think that's kept you at $5,000 a month? Because it doesn't matter what gold somebody puts on your plate. If you chose to be at an income for $5,000 a month for the last 3 years, there might be an internal issue. Why do you think you've been stuck at $5,000 a month for the last 3 years? Forget about us for a second. And the easiest way for a sales rep to build that bridge of trust is to remove the bias, and the bias is you and your product. So when I remove the bias and be like, holy shit, 1 second, forget about us. You said you've been making $5,000 a month for the last 3 years. Yes. Dude, even if I give you gold and there's still a vice happening right now inside of you or inside of your business, and I give you gold in front of you, you won't be able to execute that gold because there might be something stuck within you. Because there's so many opportunities out there. See how I'm removing the bias for a second. Why the heck have you been making it for 3 years, $5,000 a month? What do you think it was? Well, it's been Another question, Bob. If you were to get gold on your plate, if you were to have a good e-commerce program, training platform, what do you think you would do differently? See, everybody wants to say, oh, it was the other company, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what do you think you would change going into another program? You. Because you've been at the same income, $5,000 a month for the last 3 years. Internally, what do you think you could do differently? That way, if I put you in Antarctica, you could still sell in Antarctica. Because it's never really the opportunity. It's the person that creates another opportunity. Because Bob, if you put me in Antarctica, I'm going to sell ice in Antarctica. And the guy starts to think like, oh shit, not a guy that's like, I got to sell my program. It's a guy that's saying, dude, we got good shit. I'm going to show it to you. Talk to me first. What about you? Right there's something that goes through the client's mind. And I had to fast pace that conversation very fast, right? But there's something that goes through the mind saying like, oh shit, it's not a telemarketer. The person actually gives a shit. And by the way, like, I think sales reps, when they watch this, they feel like they got to be at a certain rank or a certain income to talk the way I talk, but not really. You just got to actually give a shit about your prospect and be like, wait, my prospect's been at the same income for like 10 years. That's a problem. I can't sell him this product and think this product is going to change this guy's life. So you think that, and by the way, the prospect also knows that you're about to sell him a product. So do everything to remove that bias for a second and be like, dude, the product is not going to change your life. Now the guy's going to be like, what do you mean? Yes, what we sell you is not going to change your life. You will change your life. This is not going to change your life. This is like the pathway. But you will change it. You've been at the income for the last 10 years. What the we going to do differently? I can maybe point you in the right direction even before a product. I am not, because you know what salespeople are now thinking when I do this with you guys? They're like, yeah, but Daniel, now when you got to sell the product, what do you, no, you're getting sales anxiety. Stop thinking about your product. I'm just trying to build a trust. Once I build this guy's trust, he's going to say yes to the product. You can't start thinking about like, yeah, but now when it comes time to presentation and you said it wasn't about your product, don't have sales anxiety, bro. All you had to do in the beginning was just build that trust. He's going to trust you now, whatever platform or vehicle that you give him. So I'm really trying to hone in on that trust. And by the way, another thing, contrary to belief, it doesn't take time to build trust. It doesn't take time. It doesn't mean like, you know when people are like, you got to stay on the conversation for an hour. That's what my sales guys think. They think, well, I got to be on a conversation for an hour. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to build rapport for 30 hours. There has to be something that goes through that person's brain where they're like, I trust that person. Now that could take 3 minutes or that could take 30 minutes or 3 hours, depending on how much you give the shit and you said the right words at the right time to that person. And he said something like, okay, I built trust right there maybe. I didn't think of it like that. Okay, I'm on that pathway. It's never time. Time doesn't do nothing. Time does not heal relationships. It doesn't close a conversation. Time actually sometimes wastes things. Like, you know when people are like, oh, don't worry, girl, give it time when he broke up with you. Time might just make you more depressed and more sad. Yeah. You might just listen to love songs in bed. It doesn't heal things. What heals things is urgency towards a problem. So as a sales rep, I have urgency. If you notice, guys, I have urgency towards solving that prospect's problem. Like there's so much urgency within it. Fuck the time. I'm saying like, hold the fuck up. Forget about the product, the time. We got to spend an hour on this conversation. What the heck do you mean? And I'm showing the client like, how have you been stuck at the same income? And I'm going to tell, and sometimes I tell my prospects, hey, you've been at $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month for the last 2 years? Yes. Well, you said you're in business or in sales? Yes. I would say, hey, dude, you're probably still stuck in corporate America in the cycle because you got so comfortable to an income for the last year that now that's just your identity. And that's what they do in corporate America. So now you identified that is your income, and anything a little bit more, you're going to be happy. That's why I say it's very important to change your income every single month, because if not, it's going to become part of your identity if you make the same income. And an extra $20,000 a month is going to be super exciting. And I don't want my current income to become part of my identity. And a lot of sales reps that make the same income, $10,000 a month, that just becomes part of who they are. And then they think they have freedom, but really they're still stuck in the cycle because they've been basking in the same commission check for such a long time. So you almost got to choose to make a jump inside of income. Again, when you made the same income for the last 6 months, you got to say, okay, I got to get out of this bracket. Because if not, that extra $5,000 that you get at the end of the month is like a pizza that they serve their employees at the end of the month. Oh, I'm excited. But you think you might have freedom because you're in sales.
So how do you know when it's the right time to move? Because, you know, let's say you sell a car and then you're making $150K a year, okay? And you know that you're plateaued there.
Yeah.
Because no one's making more money than you at your dealership.
Yeah.
So you could try to reinvent the wheel and find new strategies for that dealership, or you could go to the one next door where people are making twice as much money. So when...
Well, that was good what you just said. So the two identifiers, like when we change.
Yeah.
Like the first one was like, okay, am I at the cream of my crops inside of my organization? And what's the growth hit? Like what's the, like, am I ceilinged out? Can I do more? Internally first, before we jump to your other part, which was internally, the way you set a goal is, I know if I'm operating off my potential, if this is how goals should be set. Forget 2x your goal, 5x your goal, 10x your goal. It's all bullshit. This is how goals should be set. It's your best production day repeated by 30. That's how a goal should be set. It should be nothing under. Meaning, if I come work for you guys and I have a day where I closed $30,000 in one day and I made $3,000 in commissions, that's my standard. Fuck what you guys gives me as my managers. I'll be like, all right, Fabrice, yeah, bro, that's my goal. I'll wink at you and I'll be like, yeah, I got it. But in really my head, I'm like, my goal is not 50,000, it's 90,000 because I had a $3,000 day inside of commissions. I think commissions should be set on an internal basis off your best production day repeated by 30. That should be because that's your new standard. Now, if the job doesn't allow you to do that, then you got to freaking leave. However, for me, I know my standard inside of life is my best week repeated by 4 weeks, my best month repeated by 12 months, or my best day repeated by 30. That's how so I ask my guys, I'm like, guys, what's our best day? Because that holds us to like a high level. So if we had a good day inside of our business and it was 180,000, I said, guys, we're messed now. Because we got to figure out how we did that. That becomes our new standard. Yep. Our goal is no longer, let's say we had a goal inside of the organization, 5 million a month, right?
Yep.
And we had one day a $250,000 day. My guys still have the $5 million target. I say, guys, it switches now. We had a $250,000 day. We're messed. Like we got to figure out how to have like a 7.5 million or whatever that is times 30. We got to figure that out now because we already did it once.
But then how do you deal with lows? Because, in sales is not going to be always like perfect days.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's kind of the hardest part of sales is not when it's going well, it's when it's going not well and you have lows. You need to get back on those numbers. How do you deal with that?
I think, for experiencing any dip inside of sales, there's two answers. The first one is logically, every low is a reflection of your sales cycle in the last, whatever your sales cycle looks like. So if you have a 30-day sales cycle, that means whatever you're doing 30 days ago might reflect in your low in the next 30 days. You know what I mean? Like who you were mentally prospecting, following up, et cetera. If you have a 30-day sales cycle, in every low, there's math towards low. It's not just emotional. There's a math in the low. Meaning like if I'm a realtor and my sales cycle is 3 months, it's a 90-day sales cycle from point of shaking hand, prospecting, showing homes, point of closing. It might even be 6 months, right? Let's say you have a 6-month sales cycle. Your paycheck is a reflection of what the fuck you did 6 months ago. Yeah. Like that's what salespeople don't understand.
You're just recounting.
Yeah, you're just exactly. You're taking the harvest right now. So whoever is in that mindset of like, oh, I'm working for today, you're screwed up. You're actually shooting yourself in the foot. We know right now if we're in business, I'm working for the next 30 to 60 days. So whatever we plant today, we harvest in the next 30 to 60 days. So I think the lows are an educational lesson for us as a sales rep. It's an educational lesson to be like, oh wait, why am I stuck in this low? How did I get? Because I don't think business should look like this. I don't think it should look like that. I think business should look like this dip. That's like attrition, people not buying from you. But it shouldn't go so far. It should be stopped right here based on factors that you can't control. That's why it's dipping, right? Like factors that you can't control. But because you were doing so much 30 days ago, you're not going to go so much into low. That 30 days is going to offset the big dip. It's not going to go so much into the dip. Most people have this roller coaster ride inside a business because they don't know their cycle of their business and they get too emotionally drained, which means this. Let's say, for example, you do hit that big fucking major low. Let's say you're a business owner, you're a sales rep, and you're used to, like, you started with nothing and then you have 10 customers. And then you're starting to scoot down, right? Like you start to scoot down and you're like, shit, I have no customers this month. I went to like 1 customer per month or whatever the case is, 1 close per month, 0 business partners, 1 customer per month, and 0 business partners, whatever. So you were at 10 customers in January and now you're at like 1 in February. Most people lose inside a business. I'll tell you, this is the most important fucking thing because they measure from where they are now to where they used to be instead of measuring where they are now to where they started. And that gap for me has always provided confidence. The gap between measuring from where you were to where you are now is going to screw you up. But knowing where I am today from where I started is always going to keep me going because I'm like, oh, I'm at 1 business partner, I'm winning. Even if you have 0, I'm going to say, oh shit, before I started this game, I didn't know how to prospect people. I didn't know how to sell people. I didn't know how to do nothing. I'm still winning. People measure the wrong gaps inside a business, and that's why they lose. I say measure the gap to where you started and hold that confidence that you knew shit before you came in here. You had 0 business partners, 0 customers, 0 et cetera. So it's just measuring the right gaps inside a business, right? Not to where I was, because to where I was, it might be super hyper inflated. But where I started was 0. That's why I have confidence. People don't know where confidence comes from. It's not some hokey dokey pokey thing where you just have. No, confidence comes from knowing that you started with nothing inside a business and life. Because I started this game, like, I don't care if nobody says no to me. I never had a customer in the first place. Yep. People can't get to that thought. Like when you're a baby, you have no customers. When you look at yourself as a baby, you have no customers, no money, no nothing. Society has just programmed you to have less confidence. You're programmed as a human being that if I do more, I'm going to get less, but you can't. You can never be in a negative. In life, at the basis of life within itself, you can never be lower than where you started at because you started at 0 customers, zero nothing, 0 business. I can't be more negative than that.
It's just a reflection of life too, you know?
Yeah, business.
You're born with nothing, not even able to speak, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
you hold on to your wins.
Huge,
I think salespeople are good at holding on to like their growth.
Yeah.
Because nobody sees how much they grow inside of life. You're so focused on the next thing, but you're never like, shit, man, I remember I was that kid walking in snow, you know, when maybe we used to door knock or something. I remember that guy. Oh, I remember when I first started off my training, Like you hold on to that growth that nobody else can see.
So you basically switch your perspective to make sure you protect your confidence. You protect your energy and your momentum. Because if you get into that low emotional vibe, you know it's going to kill your next 30 days, basically.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I guess it's gratitude for what you got, man. You know, we don't realize sometimes when people are working like sales jobs, they don't realize how good they got it sometimes, man. Like they don't realize that, you know, you can reset your day at any hour of the day. And it doesn't have to go, dude, like last night I had a reset. People don't understand this. Like they think the whole day is written off because they had a bad morning or a bad first 8 hours. Like I don't know if anybody ever talks about this, but like you're allowed to reset at 8 p.m. and choose that it's morning time again. Some people write off their whole day or write off their whole week. I will have to consciously focus on resetting my day at like 7 or 8 or 2 p.m., just like a complete reset. And that complete reset, you got to know what gets your mojo back. Like, you know what I mean? For me, it's talking to people. So when I got a reset, for me, if people are watching, I know what gets my energy back is talking to a lot of people. So I go on a live stream. Like that's some people are going to think it's opposite. They're going to think I got to think about my business, lay down inside of bed. Mine is by doing shit. So I'm like, the quickest way I could, let me just get on a live stream. Let me reset right now. Let me talk to people.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, action gets you out of doubt for sure, man.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
I call it, in English, we call it cancer thought, right? It's a cancel belief. And I think it's really sad because the society give you that. Like a lot of small belief that don't get you further in life, right? It like maintain you in the same level or maybe worse. So when you understand business, sales, it's all about perspective. It's all about mindset, belief. And I like I saw a podcast that you said, man, it's all about brainwash, right? Brainwash, but in the good way.
Yeah.
I like to sell the dream. I like to brainwash my people, but to succeed, to perform.
Yeah.
So where did you get the best belief, the best perspective about life? Is it mentors? Is it what did you consume to get that kind of level?
I think I wanted to be brainwashed. There's a big difference. Like, you know, like some people go in with doubt. And I'm like, even if I'm trying to shampoo your brain, you're not going to want it, you know, like, because they will still buy with doubt. They'll still operate with doubt. And I say, like, you got to mentally know that you're coming into a program or you want to be trained. Like if guys come into your training, if they're still on the fence, then the training's not going to hit. Like they have to want to change their life and be brainwashed.
Yeah.
You know, like, or if not, they might be sitting down on a call, but might being like still skeptical and they're just like another hater on Instagram. Like I put those videos out on Instagram to actually piss people off. Like I specifically tell my video editors, can you go in the talk that will piss people off and not post any of the strategical shit? Like that's crazy to think of because like I can lay down formulas. I could talk about sales formulas in my sleep for 48 hours and not shut up. But I know what's going to bring people in is to have some conversation towards each other. I know that, by the way. Like I know, like that's where people lose on. I could talk about social media for hours, but you know, I tell my guys, I'm like, oh, put the brainwashing one. How I'm like, I'm the brainwasher. I'm like, put that one so people get fucking pissed off. Yeah. Because I know, like, I want people to know that, like, yes, you just pick, bro. Like you're trying to run away from somebody programming you. Are you dumb? You're gonna be programmed regardless. Yep. Pick who you want it to fucking be done. Because if you don't get programmed by a sales coach, you're gonna get programmed by this coach inside of life or your mother, your father. You just pick what brainwashing you want. And then I compared it on Instagram to that video. I'm like, okay, in sales, when we get brainwashed, like when you're like, dude, I'll do anything, Daniel G. Like, if you tell me to jump, I'm jumping. You tell me to, like, when you do that, I'm like, the end result is just better than the brainwashing that they sold you. That our end result in sales will always smash somebody else's end result. Guaranteed. Like, I never know why people don't have confidence in sales. They used to ask me, how do you have confidence selling doctors? I'm like, because I know if I make that fucking sale, I'm making more than the doctor. I had confidence selling doctors at 21. And I was selling the most highly educated people inside of practices. We're talking about doctors and not selling them pharmaceutical drugs. No, we're talking about things, ceiling lifts, medical beds, heart catheters. These people can smell bullshit from miles away. And the only thing that would hold me in confidence was like, I'm like, dude, if I sell this contract right now, I'm gonna make triple what this doctor fucking makes. Like, so that's the reality of it. That's where you build posture. So I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, you choose your brainwash. Because when we brainwash people inside of sales, I'm like, the end result is gonna be 1,000 times better than anybody else that you can pick. And you could debate me, but sales is the highest paying profession in the world. So why wouldn't you want a nice fucking scrub? At the end of it, when you max out the compensation plan, we'll make more than other people. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying the max out is gonna pay higher towards the end, guaranteed. People hire coaches and are still in doubt with that coach. They ask too many questions. Like, if I want to hire a fitness coach, I'm not gonna say like, bro, but why are we doing this ab workout every single time? Do the ab workout and shut up. Yeah. You hired a coach. You want his abs.
I feel sometimes it's ego too, man. There's a lot of people who like want to get in sales, but like have too much ego, or want to get a sales trainer and have too much ego, man, or are not coachable. That's like one of the biggest things. We have people who come into our academy. They made like 250K as I don't know, real estate broker. And then they come in and they suck. But then they're not ready to go through the process like the little 19-year-old guy who have no experience do. And then 6 months from now, one have to cuff and one is still at their same level, you know? What would you say to those people who have too much ego, man?
That was good that you brought that up. I like that. So I tell my students, I say, okay, so let's say we have a call and there's like 100 people on it. I'm like, guys, and I call out the room when I'm on stage. I say, guys, there's 80 people right now here sitting down that are like, I can't wait to fucking learn from Daniel G. And you guys got your notebooks out. I said, there's another 20% of people are going to say this inside of their head. Why the heck's this guy yelling? I don't need to learn from this guy. This guy's half my freaking age. I'm like, I know it. You guys don't got to tell me this, right? But I said one thing. I said, there's a reason why you're on the chair. And when you think of that reason, then you're going to open up to, because there's a reason why you're sitting down in that chair. You're not sitting down in that chair to be like, oh, I don't want to change my life. You do. So it's an internal thing. There's a reason why you're on that chair. You're sitting on this call because you want more inside of life. But if you convince yourself you're on the fence, you're still going to have an ego. So you got to make that jump. Either you got to exit off and not buy into anything else or not be with us, or you got to fully open up, because you have to identify what was the reason as to why you got on the call. And most people don't. The 20% of people or 30% of people, they haven't thought about that process. Like, I'm here for a reason. I'm not here to judge. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here, because if you're still here to judge, you're going to learn in skepticism and not curiosity. And those are two different types of people. I want curious people. I don't want skeptics, right? So I sit down intentionally inside of a chair. I teach people, when I train on stage, I say, guys, sit down intentionally inside of this chair. Just don't sit down in the chair to be in the chair. Just get up from the room and leave. Like, I want you guys to leave right now. And bro, I've kicked people out of conferences. If somebody talks during my conference, I get up and I kick them out. And I say, are you gonna stop talking? Because I'm not gonna do this if you're not intentionally gonna be here. Because I take my shit serious. Like, I don't play games around. And I'm very serious about this shit. It's not a joke. Like, 2 days ago, I was in Italy, or 3 days ago, I was in Italy. No, we were in Colombia. And there was like speakers speaking backstage. I said, and I stopped and I said, what the fuck are you guys doing? I came backstage. I said, guys, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? Like, I'm intentionally here right now to change lives. And this has to happen with full presence. And as long as everybody has full presence, then we can have a breakthrough. And the problem with training is most people aren't present because they have that ego. So I got to train people on how to be present. People don't understand the ability to be present inside of life. Present means you are open to the highest breakthroughs and ideas inside of life when you're present, because your energy is the best when you're present. So if I can't get somebody to be present, I can't get them to have a breakthrough inside of their business. So I need people to be present when I train them. Most people aren't present. And present just means this, for simple terms, not some spiritual crazy terms. When, like, you're at a dinner table and nobody's on their cell phones and everybody's having a good freaking time, you're present, the energy's best. When everybody's on their cell phone, you're not present, the energy's low. Just look at that example. So I say, how can I get that with my students? Are they fully present inside of the program, or are they thinking about something else? Are they distracted, or are they here? Because the only time you can have a breakthrough is when you're present. You can't have a breakthrough if you're not present. And that's the highest level of learning. It's like getting out of a conference or an event, which we'll talk about in a second too as well. We should be talking about it, is leaving and somebody coming up to you and saying, bro, how was that event that you guys threw in Quebec? And you saying, dude, you had to show up because you were so present that you had an internal breakthrough that is not trainable to somebody else. The 4 levels of learning is 1, you learn it. 2, you take action. 3, you teach somebody else. 4, you have a breakthrough that's unexplainable. That's the highest level of learning. In order to get to that level of learning, you have to be present enough. You can't have an ego. You got to walk inside of the door and be like, I don't know fuck shit. I don't know nothing. Like, even when I interview somebody, I'm a baby. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just such a baby. I want to learn. And that's what, dude, I don't want to get into like energy and sales, but that's what makes the best sales reps the best sales reps. Because when they're on a call, they're present on the call. And that's why when I was role playing with you guys being like, wait, tell me what you mean by you were making $5,000 a month. I'm present with the client. People could feel that energy exchange that I'm on the call. I'm not thinking about my commission in the next 5 minutes, and I'm not thinking about what just happened in the last 20 minutes with a sales rep. That sells the client. People, man, when people can't reverse what I said throughout this whole podcast, they're gonna think it's words. But then they're gonna realize, oh shit, it's showing somebody you actually care, that you're present with them. That person will open up. People are vulnerable to the degree that you're vulnerable. People are present to the degree that you're present. That's just sales. You know what I mean? So if you want to get more vulnerable, you get people more vulnerable. If you want them to be present, you're more present with them.
100%, man. I love the word internal breakthrough. It's like those big moments. Because I think when I look at my career, feels weird to say that at 23 years old, but when I look at my 5-year sales career, it was not like constantly going up. It was like breakthrough moments, like periods of 6 months where I would completely transform myself. And it was usually based on events or like something happened or like, I don't know, switch in my head, internal breakthrough, I think you're referencing to. And my question is that, because obviously we're in 2025 now, actually, and there's a lot of information out there. Like with AI, YouTube, you can learn anything for free. You can hear anything that you want to hear or understand anything that you want to understand online. But I feel like people, the biggest breakthrough, the biggest leap that they make is from being with some people, like events, mastermind. Because when you're behind your screen, you're watching the TV, you're talking to someone while you're listening to that videos. So there's such a big difference between learning online and being in person and being at events and having those kind of emotional moment. Because you can say the same thing on the stage and it hit me like a ton of brick. Yeah. And I completely changed my career. Or you can say it on a video, but I'm not fucking listening because I'm thinking about what I'm gonna order.
Yeah.
And so, and right now I feel like the most the value that you provide to people, like the major way you're doing it is through events.
Yeah.
And we have an event that is coming. Right?
So important.
Yeah. And when I was young, I used to look at events like, man, I'm going to those events. I'm not learning anything. I could learn all of this online on YouTube. People are teaching all sort of thing. Why would I pay to go to an event? And then I went to my first when I was like, I think I was 19 or 20 or something like that. And then I came back completely changed. And not because I learned anything new, but because I had the emotional, the proof in front of your eyes that is tangible, that is real.
Yeah.
And so at least for me, I think that's why events are important. But I want to know for you, man, why have you chosen to focus on transferring value to people with events instead of just being on social?
And we could talk about what we're doing in May,
for
right?
sure, man.
Yeah. And for me, I looked at it as the school system. I said, why does nobody question going to school? Nobody questions it. Everybody questions going to an event, but nobody questions going to school. We don't question it. We just go in there with the intent and you learn. You learn some shit. You hold on to it forever? No, because you're probably not passionate about it, right? But you go there and you learn and you sat down without questioning and you just said, okay, I treated my business the same way. I didn't have too much, like for me personally, secondary, I'm going to tell you something else, but for me, I just said, Oh, if somebody says an event, yeah, I'm gonna go. I didn't question school. I didn't question school. I thought I wanted to become this, a policeman, this, that. I just went. I didn't question it. It's not like with the school system doesn't teach you no, I didn't question it. So why would I question it now where it's inside of a business that's gonna make me 100 times more? I'm not gonna question it. I'm just gonna do it. I don't have to have so many reasons to it. I've already done it. That's why I said just make the comparison, dude. I made the comparison between school money and sales money. I'm like, if I just treated sales like school, where would I be at? That's what I did, guys. I traded. So personally for me, I went through a whole sales university. I actually never talked about this, but when I started taking sales when I dropped out of university serious, like at 18, I treated it like a university. So every single 4 months, I would study 20 books on prospecting, then 20 books on rapport, then 20 books on I treated it like a university, and I would go through these sections. I would just treat it like school. I'm like, okay, now that I left traditional school, I'm gonna be inside of sales. Let me just treat sales like a university, because there's gonna be nothing more powerful than us learning and applying it the next morning and then figuring out what works for you. I just treated it just like a university. I didn't think anything else. I'm like, if I treat this like a university and the end result is making $300,000-$400,000 a year, fuck it, let's do it. Most salespeople don't treat it like that. They have so much ego. I'm not gonna study. Why don't you just put as much respect in this, if not more, like it's Harvard? Most salespeople would be insane if they thought of it like that. And if they never stopped learning, it would be insane. So yeah, and then another thing was now I do it more than ever. Events. Because it's also an eye opener for me, guys. I started speaking early on, your guys' age is 23, you said? 24, 23?
Yep.
23. So I started speaking at 24 on stages. And this was back then when there was all these guys, 10, 20 guys dominating the space.
Yep.
And I would say within a couple of years, I started to get big events. And I needed these events just to realize how these guys were nothing. I had to even realize it as a speaker, but I had to be there to realize oh, that guy was nothing. And I would have never ever had that breakthrough if I didn't go to some of these events where they didn't pay me a dime. They didn't pay me a dime. I'm like, yeah, I'll do the opening for this guy. And then I would be backstage. I'd be listening to this guy. I'm like, I would eat circles around this sales trainer guy. But I would have never thought about that unless I had that intimacy with that individual. I had to make sure that they weren't vibrating at some whole other frequency. You don't get that through a screen, just like you said, right? I love when people come to events because number one, yes, energy transfer, but number two, it's real and it's a human. You pay for that. You pay for the access to the energy and the reality of life.
Yeah. No, I just feel like if you consider learning as something you put inside your brain, really crystallized there, you can do that without emotion.
No.
You cannot do that just hearing you say something. I will forget it about a couple minutes. And
right.
So, but when you got that emotion, that's where things stick and you can remember those.
100%.
And so.
All right, boys.
Well, by the way, guys, let me get some video in right now. In May 30th, can we start talking about it right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Might
man.
as well since the cameras are rolling.
Go ahead, man.
So May 30th, these gentlemen reached out to me and were like, Daniel, we're gonna have the most kick-ass sales event in Montreal, right? And I said, yes, let's rock it out. So May 30th, we're gonna pack out Montreal, okay, Canada. Whether you guys speak English, you speak French, doesn't matter what you guys sell, everybody watching this, whether it's online, offline, physical products, your thought leaders, coaches, consultants, insurance reps, real estate reps, door-to-door reps, business owners,
everything.
B2B reps, B2C reps, regardless of the product offer or service that you sell, it's gonna be dynamic, it's gonna be intense. I'm gonna be out there as a keynote trainer. If many of you guys don't know, my name's Daniel G. I've trained, well over, I used to say 1 million, but it's over 2 million plus salespeople at this point from every single continent, country that you guys can think of, 670 plus events. And I'm happy to be back in Montreal to do an event with these gentlemen. I know we're gonna put back not just an impactful event, but I also think it's gonna be strategical to the sense where people need something to walk away from where at nighttime they can leave the event and go call on somebody. That's what I want people to come out from the event. Go call on somebody and use a strategy where they can transform it into a deal the next morning. That's going to be the impact of a great sales event. So I can't wait to do it. May 30th, when you guys watch this, grab your tickets somewhere here. I'm going to be down in Quebec, Canada. Can't wait.
Let's go. The
Come on,
link
man.
Thank
is
you,
in
guys.
the
Thanks, man.
description. Let's fucking do it.
Let's go.
Every single great salesperson in this profession, they're made. They're not born. Michael Jordan doesn't go wing his Game 7 winning shot on Game 7. He's practiced it a million times inside of the gym. A doctor, trained not born, they've done it a million times inside of the lab before they went to go hit a surgery. An architect, trained not born, they've done it a million times in school, designed it a million times before they went to go do it in an actual building. A great salesperson is trained at events like this and they're not born. And guess what? They just don't show up once. They do it every single time because words lie. Showing up to one event that your actions are a little bit deceptive. But repetition, training every single day, that tells the freaking truth.